Hello, this is VNews Broadcast Daily, and following today's highlights.
Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng closes his visit to the UK. The two countries issued a joint statement on the occasion. Japan remains top investor in Vietnam in 2012. Vietnam faces a consumer price index rise of 1.25% in January.
Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng has concluded his two-day visit to the United Kingdom. During the visit, Vietnam and the UK issued a joint statement.
Before leaving the United Kingdom on January 23rd, Trọng and his entourage laid a wreath at the Ho Chi Minh Memorial Plate in London. The plate was placed at New Zealand House on Haymarket Street, which was formerly Carlton Hotel, where the late resident worked 100 years ago. Trọng also visited the hotel's kitchen where the president worked during the 1913-1917 period. Trọng also met with Crown Prince Charles in London. He reiterated the country's policy of stepping up ties with the UK. He praised the role of the British royal family in promoting the relations between the two countries. Crown Prince Charles said he wishes to increase cooperation with Vietnam in agriculture and environmental and wildlife protection and other fields. The same day, Minister of Planning and Investment Bùi Quang Vinh and UK Minister of State for International Development Alan Duncan signed a Memorandum of Understanding on Public-Private Partnerships Cooperation, the first between the two countries. Minister Vinh said he hopes with the support and cooperation of the UK, Vietnam will be able to seek investments from the private sector for infrastructure development. The two sides agreed to hold working sessions this year to realize the Memorandum of Understanding.
President Chuang Than-sang hosted a reception on January 23rd for Chairman of the Lao Presidential Office Minister Phongsavat Bopha.
President Sang said the visit by the minister, which follows the two countries' successful Vietnam-Laos, Laos-Vietnam 2012 Friendship and Solidarity Year, continues to strengthen relations between the two sides. He suggested that the presidential offices of Vietnam and Laos should work on more cooperation programs in 2013. Earlier, on behalf of the Lao president, the Lao minister presented the first-class Israel order to the presidential office of Vietnam. The head of the presidential office and 5 officials were also awarded.
On January 27, 1973, the Paris Agreement on Ending the War and Restoring Peace in Vietnam was signed in Paris, marking an outstanding historical period and the peak of Ho Chi Minh-era diplomacy. On the 40th anniversary of the agreement, the Vietnam news agency interviewed Foreign Minister Phạm Bình Minh on the meaning of the Paris Conference and the lessons it imparted.
Minister Minh stressed that the Paris Agreement is the most comprehensive legal document recognizing Vietnam's right to independence, unification, and territorial integrity. He said that the agreement imparted many valuable experiences and lessons in which the decisive element behind the triumph was the sound leadership of the Communist Party of Vietnam. The Paris Conference also proved the fact that only when we preserve our independence and sovereignty in making any decision can we take the proactive role in attacking the enemy and seizing all opportunities to protect national interests. The minister affirmed that the diplomatic struggle during the anti-US war, the peak of which was the Paris Conference, was a strategic front that contributed greatly to the cause of national liberation. He went on to say that the rule of the Paris Agreement negotiations, which were to maintain independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, has been an immutable rule in negotiations since then. The Paris Conference took place from January 25, 1969 to January 27, 1973, with 202 open and 24 private meetings. After 4 years and 8 months of negotiations, the U.S. was forced to stop bombing, withdraw all troops from southern Vietnam and recognize Vietnam's sovereignty, reunification, and territorial integrity. The agreement was a turning point in Vietnam's anti-U.S. war, which culminated in the liberation of the South and reunification of the country in April 1975.
Japan was the largest foreign investor in Vietnam in 2012, and more Japanese companies will choose the Southeast Asian country as the destination for the investment, according to the Japanese External Trade Organization, ZETRO.
Japanese External Trade Organization has just announced its 2012 survey on business conditions of Japanese affiliated firms in Asia and Oceania, which noted that Japanese companies accounted for a quarter of new foreign invested projects and around 50% of total capital in Vietnam last year. The survey also showed that one-third of respondents in Vietnam, about 34.2%, believed the situation will improve in 2013, up 30.8% from last year. In addition, more than 65% of Japanese firms in Vietnam said they have plans to expand their business. At the same time, the survey pointed to several difficulties faced by Japanese enterprises in Vietnam, such as labor force quality and availability and low localization rate of materials and components.
Many Japanese investors are worried about the lighter quality human resources in Vietnam. The Vietnamese government also acknowledges the importance of this issue. I hope that cooperation between Vietnam and Japan in human resources training will help address this and create an advantage in attracting investment for Vietnam.
Last year, Japanese companies invested more than $5 billion in Vietnam, accounting for almost 40% of the total investment flows into the Southeast Asian country.
The World Bank on January 24th released a report on Vietnam's poverty reduction in 2012, which highlights the country's performance in reducing poverty over the past 2 decades. At the same time, it points out the challenges facing Vietnam in maintaining the pace of the progress.
With the theme "Well Begun, Not Yet Done," Vietnam's remarkable progress on poverty reduction and the emerging challenges, the report said Vietnam's record on economic growth and poverty reduction over the last 2 decades has been remarkable. On the basis of a poverty line initially agreed in the early 1990s, the poverty fell from 58% in the early 1990s to 14.5% by 2008. And by the standards was estimated to below 10% by 2010. Despite the remarkable progress, the report said poverty reduction is still not complete yet, and in a number of aspects, the task is even more difficult. Among the challenges are inequality in incomes and opportunities, persistent ethnic minority poverty, and gap between the rich and the poor. The report also suggested changes in the poverty monitoring system and new poverty standards. It called for a more dynamic approach to the issue.
The nation's Consumer Price Index, CPI, in January increased by 1.25% from December 2012. The General Statistics Office announced on January 24th that CPI is up 7.07% compared to the same period 12 months ago.
Prices in January increased by 0.03 to 7.4% in 10 out of 11 commodity categories used to calculate the CPI. The biggest rise was in health services with 9.5%, which contributed to a 0.44% hike in January CPI. The lowest price rise was in transportation. Only the cost of postal and telecommunications services saw a decline, a 0.05% fall from December 2012. With the Lunar New Year on the threshold, the price of food and restaurant services had been predicted to peak this month, but rose only 1.34%. The General Statistics Office said the government and relevant agencies need to assist enterprises and local authorities to ensure supply of vital goods to curb a CPI increase in February. CPI increased by 0.95% in Hanoi and 0.44% in Ho Chi Minh City in the month.
And this is the end of our news today. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.